Okay, let's do some more trading here into the bell. It looks like we're taking a trip back down to the lows. Gareth Soloway is here to close out the week. Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Gareth, you liking this red?
Well, it certainly makes for some interesting market activity and trading opportunities. So I'm never against down markets because it always brings opportunity.
That's why I like you. You're agnostic, as we've found out in your Bitcoin coverage, navigating the trolls and the online craziness in that world. Where do you stand on that right now? Let's get right to it, because I see a line that basically is like its COVID regime kind of being threatened here. It's a longer term line, but it connects with the one you've got on the short term.
Yeah. So there's no doubt about it. We're retesting this kind of $39,000 level on Bitcoin. And the problem is we've retested this now. I mean, since January, probably 5 or 6 times we've hammered against this trend line. And the big worry is trend lines work like doorways. When you hammer against them enough, eventually they can break to the downside. So yeah, I'm definitely on alert here. If this 39,000-ish area gives way, you definitely are looking for a move potentially back down to 33,000, which was the low in January.
All right, so you're viewing it as a segmented move here where there's still some support down at 30K.
Yeah, certainly some support around 33, which was January's low. And then if you go back to, I think it was May and June of last year, you had those lows that were around 29 to 30.
That's right.
So there are segments out where you will get technical bounces. But again, I know you follow me on Twitter, and I've talked about it quite a bit, is I still think that you need the flush out. There's over 19,000 cryptocurrencies out there. I couldn't even name more than maybe 20 of them at this point. It's very much like the .com bubble, and they need a flush out. And remember, Amazon went from $112 to $6 in the .com bubble burst, and it's now 3,300 or 3,000. So there's a lot of upside once you wash away the nonsense.
Gareth, where will Bitcoin play a role in that? Because I know as you've been trading this, you've generally held on to a longer term view that we should continue to think about it as being in an uptrend. But now that it's gone correlation 1 to the NASDAQ, does that break the Bitcoin theory about what it can be? What happens if it breaks these technical levels at a moment here where the inflation story is directly impacting stocks and Bitcoin's just doing worse?
Yeah, so it's important for investors in Bitcoin right now to understand that it's a risk asset, meaning that it behaves much like stock in Tesla or the NASDAQ 100. So when you see the Fed hiking rates, people run for cover. They're going to sell cryptocurrency, Bitcoin as well. Now, my thesis is that in the near term, meaning the next couple years, it's going to be a risk asset. But as it matures into a more kind of older kind of entity, you will see it take on more of that gold safe haven status. But again, investors have to be calm and patient. Remember, this started in 2009. It's basically a teenager at this point, a very young teenager. You have to let it mature into that market where it will eventually become the likeness of gold, but digital.
Okay, some teenagers make bad decisions. Let's hope this one doesn't end up locked away. All right, you're more optimistic than I am. Okay, Gareth, let's talk about stocks right now. The NASDAQ looking like it's struggling here into the final moments. That big sell-off fade yesterday, what do you make of that?
Yeah, so this is just more chatter from the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell a couple days ago kind of shook the markets. I even think Netflix earnings, and this was a big telltale for me. So Netflix got crushed on earnings. Then Tesla came out with really good earnings, and it didn't hold the gains yesterday, and the market still sold off. That's never a good sign. So right now, it's, again, risk-off environment. Technology's getting hammered. But I will say this. I am actually starting to nibble on certain stocks down here. So Zoom, Teladoc, Netflix, Facebook. I'm actually nibbling here because the valuations, the oversold technical levels, major support down here. I think you get a short-term reprieve maybe next week where these things can snap back. I think the catalyst for that snapback could come in terms of Apple earnings. You have Facebook earnings. You have Google, Amazon. These earnings, if they can be good, you'll see a snapback in technology. So I'm a buyer here today going into the weekend.
It is pretty interesting that on this big fade that Zoom video is only down 60 bips. So maybe here's some truth to that notion that it's exhausted. On the other hand, Chewy's down 7% today, making a new low and breaking down. So when you say nibble, can you give me some more details? What's your style? Do you just buy some shares, or are you buying like a out of the money call, looking for a quick spike that you then bail out of? Are you looking at something in the money that you just get a drift up where anything works for a bounce? Walk me through it.
Yeah. So for me, for the most part, when the volatility is as high as it is right now, the premiums on options are too much for me. So what I do is I'm nibbling. And when I say nibbling, I'm putting about 1% of my portfolio in a bunch of these names. So it may turn out to be 10 to 20% of my portfolio that's going in, but I'm spreading it amongst these names because I don't want to be caught in one name like a Netflix if they have a big earnings decline of 37%. So what I like to do is I like to nibble with 1%. Early next week, if we see a big drop again, I'll nibble and add another 1% of my portfolio, kind of slowly dollar cost averaging in this range. And that puts me in a position when we finally do get that big bounce, which bear markets have rip your face off rallies. We saw it recently over the last month or so in the tech sector. Then you can participate and you have averages that'll give you profits.
Is there, I like that detail, by the way, appreciate that. So you're taking a stab, basically. You are taking a small portion here, spreading it across names that you think potentially could bounce and ready to get out. Are we talking like 5%, or are these the type of stocks that you're looking for a move with double digits potentially?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because having your proper thought process for what you're going to look for determines whether you get out or you don't, and then it falls against you. So for me, it's right around that 10% marker. So a lot of these stocks from these levels, wherever I accumulated my overall average ends up being, you should get at least a 10% snapback on something like Zoom back to $110, $112, on something like Teladoc, $5, $6 from here to the upside. That bounce can actually come in within a day or two, and I'm not going to be a stickler. I'm not going to say, oh, I want 15 or 20, because I do think we're in a bear market, and I do think the Fed is going to be hiking quite a bit. So it's a short-term investment or short-term trade, in and out, get that 10% and run. You
willing to apply that potential short-term bounce to the China stuff at all, Gareth, or is that like left for dead in this market?
So yeah, great question, because that's the one area today that's actually doing well. At least last I checked, Alibaba was actually green early this morning. Baidu, the K-Web was doing well. So I've really started to actually accumulate. I bought some K-Web, some Alibaba, some Baidu yesterday. I did take profits on K-Web today when it was early in the day. I'm glad I did that. Still holding my Alibaba and my Baidu, though. And I do think those offer a good valuation. And I do think that underinvested markets are foreign markets right now. And you will see these good valuation stocks do very, very well relative to the U.S. markets. All right, there it is. It is notable that outperformance today. K-Web up 1.5% might be a good wave for a bear to hedge his shorts right now. Take a little stab. Wink, wink. All right, thanks, Gareth. Have a great weekend. Good to catch up. You too. Yes, sir. Gareth Soloway from InTheMoneyStocks.com.